Welcome back to the channel.
Yeah, it's me, don't cream your pants.
I'm breaking out the killer clowns again for the first time in what, 8 months? What could possibly go wrong? I'm up against the new Death Guard for the first time, so this should be interesting. As an aside, this is actually the first non-Imperium army I've faced in 9th. Look back at my previous 12 battles and you'll see it's all versus Imperium. So yeah, yay for something different at last. Anyway, let's take a look at the rosters. We're playing Retrieval Mission, on a standard 60 by 44 board. For secondaries, I took Banners, Engage, and Minimize Losses, and Death Guard took Stranglehold, Spread the Sickness, and Minimize Losses. Spread the Sickness is a Death Guard secondary, obviously, which grants VPs for contaminating objectives. Minimize Losses is mission-specific, and grants VPs at the end of the battle based on what percentage of your army survives. An obvious pick for a resilient faction like Death Guard, and I just felt it was the best of a bad bunch for my third pick. Here's my deployment. The Incarn starts in Deep Strike. I'm weighted towards the left flank, but with the narrow table and my ridiculous speed it hardly matters. One unit of bikes in the left-hand building would be visible, as they're within its footprint, but they're protected by the shadows here so I'm not too worried.
You might end up dead is my middle name.
Here's Death Guard. All the vehicles, and 10 Poxwalkers, are over on his left flank, so my right. Everything else is in a massive death ball behind the building on the other flank, apart from 3 Blightlord Termies in Deep Strike. Okay, I get first turn, so let's get into the battle. I move up like so. With the way his vehicles are positioned, I can't get far up enough to get a shooting angle on them behind the obscuring terrain. With that in mind, it's just too risky to move up for engage on all fronts at this stage. I don't really want the flesh mower drone things all up in my grill, thank you very much.
We always like to avoid confrontation whenever possible.
For now I'm content to just spread out across my half and raise banners on 3 objectives. The Death Jester does the back one, and 2 troops disembark to do the others. To mark the banners, I'm using these awesome little metal tokens I got from Grotzkull's workshop on Etsy. They come in a set with tokens for other secondaries, and they also do tokens for things like stratagems and spells. Definitely check them out if you're in the market for tokens. So in shooting, the only unit I can see is the 10 Poxwalkers on the left flank, as they're right up inside the building instead of behind it. I aim a bit of haywire their way and kill a handful. Looking back at the battle, I'm fairly certain that I totally neglected to give myself extra shots from the blast rule.
Come on man, you've been doing this long enough. Seriously, right?
I can only say in my defense that out of my previous 12 battles in 9th, I think only 2 opponents took any units at all that had more than 5 models in them. Ah well, that kinda stings in hindsight, but never mind. I score no points in turn 1, so it's on to Death Guard. One Plague Burst Crawler comes out from the building, and the other one creeps forward so that it's in the footprint and no longer obscured. The drones stay back, however. The Poxwalkers on the right advance onto the objective, and the Death Ball on the left starts coming forward painfully slowly, with the Poxwalkers over there only just able to make it onto the leftmost objective. In Psychic, Miasma goes off onto the central crawler. In shooting, the crawlers just managed to take out a couple of bikes from one unit, I think, so I breathe a sigh of relief. So we get a score sheet now, as one of the Poxwalker units successfully contaminated an objective, so it's 3-0 to Death Guard at the end of turn 1. Well, this picture's a bit of a frickin' spoiler. I didn't get one of movement, so this is partway through shooting.
Don't worry, it won't happen again.
So basically, I move up very aggressively with 2 fusion boats, and the unscathed unit of 5 bikes, which gets blurred. The fusion boats each take out a flesh mower drone thing. I then manage to take out one of the Plague Burst crawlers with haywire.
No! That's a lot of damage!
Of note, I fired separately with one of the bikes cause it was firing through dents or something, and that one bike took off half the Plague Burst's wounds by itself, due to some hot rolls.
Oh, mama.
Regarding my movement across the rest of the board, I'm kind of forced into staying on the 3 objectives closest to me, for the best shot at primary goodness going forward, and to deny stranglehold, so there's just a smattering of units spread out across the various objectives. I had tried to whittle down the remaining poxwalkers over here with haywire, but only killed 3, leaving 6 remaining. I therefore have to charge in with 3 bikes, but do a pitiful amount of damage. The poxwalkers then retaliate and use a strat to deal mortal wounds. They actually wound themselves on wands, and here's their roll. 3 mortal wounds to me, but 5 to themselves.
That makes me smile.
Despite this, it still goes frickin' horribly for me, however. They ignore some of the mortals with their feel no pain, their mortals and regular attacks kill 2 goddamn bikes, and then they get 2 guys back due to the slain bikes.
What?
Just a total shit show there then, and one I could have avoided if I'd A, played a bit smarter, and B, been more knowledgeable about what poxwalkers can do. Oh well. In the top center, the 5 bikes just tagged the last remaining crawler in combat, losing 1 to Overwatch. I do no damage but just want to stop it shooting next turn. A juicy banner harvest, engage, and 10 for primaries, puts me on 15 at the end of my turn 2, then. In the top center, 3 Death Shroud and his Warlord waddle across to take on my bikes. He also uses a stratagem to bring back a few poxwalkers on the depleted unit. Here's a shot of almost the whole board, where you can see his slow units on the left still coming forward. You can only see a few of the unit of 10 Blight Lords, as the rest are behind the wall of the building. Finally, his 3 Death Shroud which were in deep strike come in my backfield, to threaten my home objective.
Every single time.
On to Psychic. I don't know exactly what spells and powers were used, but essentially I get absolutely mullered up here. In movement he had thrown the Plague Skull at my bikes and rolled absolutely terribly, doing hardly anything, but in Psychic he simply rips through these units, killing a bunch of bikes as well as the Star Weaver. I think there may be a bit of shooting too, presumably from the big unit of Blight Lords and probably a few other things I don't really know about, and when the dust settles the players are dead, and I just have 1 bike left up here.
It's gone. It's all gone.
Well, that was another friggin' shit show. I was totally unprepared for the sheer volume of mortal wounds, and thought I could rely on my 3++ to tank most incoming damage. Wrong. Charge time.
Does anyone have a charger?
The Death Shroud down here charge my Death Jester, and make it in, with the help of a CP reroll.
Fuck.
They predictably muller the Jester, so I use the opportunity to bring in the Incarn. Next, with the loss of so many bikes at the top of the board, I really don't want to lose my 1 bike to the damn poxwalkers who killed 2 bikes last turn, so although it's an eye-watering 2 CP and not really a great use of the strat, I bite the bullet and use the Curtain Falls strat to fall back out of combat with the bike after it's made its attacks, saving its skin.
See you, chump.
Finally, the Death Shroud and Warlord up here easily made their charge into the lone bike, and then kill it without breaking a sweat. They didn't manage to contaminate anything for spread the sickness this turn, but the charge onto my home objective with the Death Shroud means they do score Stranglehold. Combined with 10 from primaries, that puts Death Guard on 16, to my 15. Here's my turn 3 movement. I panic about the Death Shroud on my home objective and have nightmares about the Incarn whiffing or the Termies bossing their invulnerable saves, so I send my Warlord's boat all the way back and my Warlord disembarks as well. The plan is to potentially fire and fade the boat towards them, bringing me into fusion pistol range. This should hopefully be enough overkill to make sure the unit definitely dies one way or another. On the left, my players decide they need to do something about the approaching Poxwalker horde, and head straight towards them. On the right, 2 bikes are positioned to score engage, and to threaten the depleted Poxwalkers. Here's a closer shot of that. It turns out I really didn't need to commit so much to the Death Shroud back here, as in Psychic I absolutely muller them. I think I either kill them in Psychic alone, or it maybe takes a very small amount of shooting to finish them off. I also whittle down some of the Poxwalkers over here and shooting too. And am able to finally finish off the goddamn Poxwalkers over here.
Thank you!
The players on the left then charge the Poxwalkers, murder a bunch of them, and use the Curtain Falls strat to fall back to safety before they can get hit back.
So good.
It's again not what I'd consider a great use of the strat, as it's simply the most obvious aspect of avoiding retaliatory blows, rather than using the strat for board control, but I'll take what I can get at this stage. 2 for banners, 2 more for engage, and 10 for primaries, puts me up to 29. Death Guard turn 3. He resurrects a bunch of the Poxwalkers that were just killed by my players, and his Blightlords continue their inexorable march. His Warlord and remaining Death Shroud head for the nearby right objective, but can't quite make it yet. The termies over here actually aren't that far from my players now. In shooting I lose a player, and I think I then lose my last remaining bikes, possibly to the Plague Burst Crawler. Not sure. Anyway, the termies attempt to charge? And they make it.
It's over.
They slaughter the players with ease, trampling my banner into the mud in the progress. Score-wise it's still pretty close, with Death Guard going up to 32 at the end of turn 3, 3 points ahead of me. I can sense the battle drawing to a close, and it's not looking good for the Harleys. I have no way of reliably threatening this objective now, and this one is currently occupied by a large unit of angry and foul-smelling Terminators, which leaves me squashed into just these 2, meaning I'll be outscored on primaries and stranglehold for the rest of the game.
Why you pulling me? I'm right.
I think my only possible salvation would be a Hail Mary attack on the Blightlords, hoping for a massive damage spike allowing me to regain control of that side of the board. To that end, the Incarn, my Warlord, the Shadowseer, and 5 players head over there. I know, I don't have enough to make this work. Here's a better shot. Psychic and shooting sees 2 Terminators killed? Then a big ol' multi-charge sees just 1 more Terminator die, and my players wiped out to a man. The Incarn and my Warlord do survive, at least. Just a paltry 1 banner harvested this turn, although I do score engage. I think I had 1 bike left and it scored engage for me, or something. I go up to 42. Looking at the state of the board, we can see that Harleys now have no chance. It was getting close to packing up time, but we wanted to quickly play out the rest of the battle to see what the final scores would be. Unfortunately, due to the massive rush I didn't snap any more picks, but there's not a lot left anyway really. I'll just show the scorecards. In their turn 4, Death Guard kill the Incarn and Troop Master, I think, and obviously now dominate on primaries, scoring 15, as well as Stranglehold and another Contamination, putting them safely in the lead on 53. We kind of half play and half work out the likely outcome of turn 5, and it ends with an 86-66 win for Death Guard. At the time I wrote 56 for myself, cause I didn't add up my primaries correctly.
God, you're dumb.
Anyway, with Death Guard's slow movement it's likely that I'd hang on to 2 objectives, just about, raising back 2 banners and scoring another 2 banners at the end of the game. I get nothing from minimize losses, though, and Death Guard continue to score big on primaries and their other objectives, as well as 10 from minimize losses. Looking back at the slides I can see in hindsight exactly what I did wrong, which is frustratingly true of so many of my games. As well as a couple of movement mistakes, and allowing Death Guard to get a charge off onto my players in turn 3, which I should have avoided. I just didn't play around their weaknesses enough, and got too close at times, allowing mortal wounds and brutal combat to take their toll. I should say, though, that my opponent was even less familiar with Harlequins, having never fought them before, and did well to recover and persevere after a devastating turn 2, where I took out 75% of his vehicles. If I could have retained control over that quadrant of the board a little more decisively, and just kept my distance on the left flank for a bit longer, things might have gone differently. Well, that'll do it for another report. Thanks to my opponent for the great game, and thanks to you, yes you, for watching it. If you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and all that shiz. Goodbye.